Hey, let's see here. Man, all over the place. All right. Oh, my son. All right. Welcome into Cap and Trade. This is episode 42. I am your host, Texas Cap, joined remote via mobile video feed. Mr. Landry Locker, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, dude. Doing good. The good thing is, as late as the start is, as chaotic as you think it is, you're not as much of a disaster as the Texans were today. So, you're already playing for second place, no matter what.
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting day watching the timeline. This is probably more so than I've been able to actually interact on Twitter since I've been on vacation this week and kind of get a pulse of the fans, especially listen to y'all on the radio and see how things are going. And it's just getting ugly. And I just don't get what is going on with Lovey versus the media. He's getting more irritable week by week. I just don't know. I feel like at some point he's just going to go off on somebody, and I don't know who it's going to be. But it's just been a rough week on that front. And then, how the whole benching of Davis Mills was handled. And then, saying that they haven't made a decision. And then Pep says there's no change in the plan. And then it's leaked out 15 minutes later that it's Kyle Allen going to start this week. So it's just been a crazy, crazy day.
Well, it was actually leaked out before Pep, and it was hilarious because Caserio was on at 7:30. He didn't say anything. Um, Lovey goes up there, and Lovey's just a jerk. Like, I don't know, like, he's a jerk, and he's not a good enough coach to be a jerk. And the main reason that he was brought here was to be a face of the organization. And I don't like using the word bully because I think it's like way too like overused sometimes in society, but he's just nothing short of a jerk. Like, and and I can give like specific examples. Like, he's the one who brought up that there was going to be a change in the first place. So he's the one who said on Monday there's going to be a change. So naturally, the reporters do their jobs and they ask about the change, and he gets all pissed off about it. He brings up competitive advantage today. Brooks Cabina just simply asks, what is the competitive advantage? He gets pissed about that. Like, he can't even be a consistent hardo. He's just all over the place. And I don't look, if you think it's a competitive advantage, cool. I think you can kind of argue that it isn't. I think it's like debatable, but to be like that dug in and unwilling to say anything, and then it gets leaked out 5 minutes later, I think it's hilarious. And what worries me though about this organization is that now I think that this organization is going to be more mad about the leaks than the fact that they just look stupid.
I want to make sure I address on this one.
Sorry.
I think they're going to be more mad about the leaks than the fact that they just look goofy and weird today. Uh, and I thought it was one of the bigger losses that the Texans have had in the last few years because, this kind of goofy crap, it bothers people, it annoys people. And now, like, it seems like it hasn't gone away, and they're still doing this goofy crap, and it's just kind of frustrating, man. I feel for the fan base that they just can't figure stuff out, uh, and in the big scheme of things, it might not matter, but this just seems like something that you know you thought would be gone, and honestly, Cap. I think this is the time where Cal McNair, Hannah McNair, whoever else needs to talk to Caserio and find out if he's got his crap together with the way that this whole thing went down. I think Cal has been guilty of, kind of letting O'Brien, do his thing and give him enough rope to hang himself, maybe too much rope. But, you have your culture thing going on. You have I guess the Easterby thing's gone, and you have your coach going out there doing that. Like, this is where I would like to see Cal and Hannah kind of just step in and at least like ask Caserio, what's the deal here, man?
Yeah, it's just been it looks like a total miscommunication between coach and GM to head coach to offensive coordinator. You're getting multiple different stories, no real commonality, no standard message or anything like that. It's just a little bit of, I don't know if they're all on different pages or everybody has different opinions. And it just kind of makes me wonder where this change is really being driven from. Is it coming from Lovey? Is it coming from Caserio? Caserio says it's a joint decision. I think that's the, kind of the organizational standard response, but it's just a lot of just all over the place. There's, I was trying to get the video to pull up for Robert Saleh, and you saw his press conference today, and it was very clear, very concise of, yes, we benched Wilson. Here's why. His mechanics, his fundamentals are going backwards. He needs to sit down for a week or two, reassess, get himself back going. It's just very straightforward message. And I think if Lovey had come out with something similar to that, just be honest with the media and with the fans of what's going on instead of trying to play this cat and mouse game. It's not like you're vying for a playoff spot. It's not like you're vying for, all this chess and, secret moves and all that stuff. Just be honest and come out and say what it is. Davis Mills is not playing well. He needs to sit back and reset. He needs to, just like last season where they brought back Tyrod. And then once he got hurt again, then Davis Mills started playing better. I don't know if that's going to happen this year or not, but just be honest with everybody. It's not that hard.
If you're not going to be honest, at least have a clue. Like, have a clue that it's going to get out and you're going to look stupid. Like, have some sort of like grasp of reality that an agent most likely is going to tell Garofalo, he's going to tell whoever else, and they're going to find out. Like, have a clue. Like, have some sort of clue, have some sort of grasp of things, because that's where they look stupid. Like, it's very obvious. And it almost seems like corny ass New England stuff, because I heard that, like, in the media availability, Davis Mills was working with the first team. And then as soon as the media left, it was basically like, Kyle Allen, get out there. So it almost seems like it was just overly corny the way they did it. And look, I think, I don't want to speak for you, but when it comes to like how things are handled and the grasp of today's NFL and the way that decisions go, I take how Robert Saleh handles it over how Lovie Smith handles it, and really, quite frankly, over how Caserio handles it. This was a bad day for me for Caserio too. And I think that the honeymoon phase is kind of over with Caserio for me, and it's time to truly evaluate him. And I'm skeptical about him. Some of the stuff that he said today, some of it might just be a me thing, but he bothered the hell out of me the way that he said goodbye to Sean and Seth. Happy Thanksgiving, and this is a good time to remember that there are more important things than football. Shut the hell up. Like, you don't need to tell your fan base that. They don't show up to the games as it is. Like, did you say that in New England? There's more important things than football. I don't need to hear my GM saying that. Like, it's one thing if you're addressing a tragedy or something like that, but just a little smug, and it's important to remember. Nah, it's important to remember you need to go win some games, because football, it builds bonds. There's people who are they're centered around football relationships. There's opportunity because of football to do other things off the field. The Houston economy is better when football's there. Like, I just don't need that smug Silicon Valley type BS that, oh yeah, there's more important things than football. Shut up. Like, that annoyed the hell out of me. And then the Kamu Grugier-Hill thing, I heard, and McLean said basically what he was saying. If you missed the interview, it's on the Odyssey app, 7:30 a.m. on Payne and Pendergast. You really won't miss much. I'll summarize the good stuff. He really just talked in circles. It sucked. But he basically just said, like, there was some fake news out there, and there's reports, and I don't think a lot of people.
And he'll qualify it when he says that and quite frankly, it's inaccurate. But that's okay. But he'll say, but that's okay. And I'm like,
yeah. Well, but it also doesn't matter, because what McLean said that he was talking about, what I heard was that, Kamu Grugier-Hill didn't, just ask to be out of Houston because it sucked, and they were going to cut him anyways. And my thing is, I don't care if Justin Britt has personal stuff going on. I don't care if Kama Grugier asked to get released, so you're going to release him. The problem is, let's not deflect. The problem is, you brought these guys back to be your culture guys. Regardless of the extra stuff, they couldn't play. Like they couldn't play. Like Justin Britt he could not play football anymore. And Kama Grugier was one of the worst linebackers on a really bad linebacking core. So I don't care if Tom Pelissaro got a story wrong or someone got a story wrong and asked for a release. Like I just it doesn't really matter to me. And I think he basically confirmed the Cook stuff, but like just if you want to correct it, correct it. But like just the smug, like vague, like, oh, it's okay. Like I'm I'm thankful that Caserio got them out of this mud, but I mean, now it's time to really look at Caserio. And today, that was not a well-oiled machine. I think something needs to be said. Like he needs to be pulled into his superior's office and asked, like, what the hell was that? What is y'all's plan? What is the payoff here? Do you really think that you think it's a competitive advantage? Okay, well, you do realize that agents are going to leak it. Like that's kind of how it works. That's why Salah's giving it up. So you got to figure that out. Why is your coach getting mad about basic questions, going up there looking silly, like making himself look silly? And, he's supposed to be like the face and the adult and stuff. Like, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated for the people. I'm frustrated for myself because this type of stuff shouldn't be happening. Like the bad football, okay, that's going to happen. You got 75 million dead cap. You've had to go through what you got going. You got Lovie Smith, who is used to coaching bad football. More times than not, he coaches bad football. That's fine. You're gonna have the number one pick. I'm fine with that. But this type of stuff, this is the type of stuff that's not supposed to happen anymore. And it did today. And you look stupid. And an organization that's ahead of you on the rebuild, they got a head start, but they have their coach that they believe is going to take them to the promised land. They have a similar situation, second year quarterback struggling. They handled it flawlessly, smoothly in freaking New York and in Houston, where you don't grill near as much. You handled it. You look silly, and that's something. And if Nick Caserio doesn't think he looks silly today, then you got a problem. But Cal McNair, Hannah McNair, props to them. They're working their asses off. They're trying to do everything. I just don't think they should give him too much rope. He should at least be talked to about how today went, whether it's him, whether it's Lovey, whatever. That was pathetic.
Yeah, it's top to bottom from front office to the coaching staff. There's no common message coming out. Like we said, there's too many different voices of opinion, two different different messages coming out, and it's just a bad look top to bottom. Like you said, especially when it happens at the exact same time that it's going down in New York, and they, like you said, handle it near flawlessly versus how everything went down here, and it's just wild. And hopefully it's I hate to say another learning experience for this organization, but you only get so many learning experiences before you start showing improvement, no matter if it's roster building on the field, and in this case off the field, and how things are handled. That this organization's got to find ways to be able to manage things like this, because it's going to carry over into the field, carry over into the locker room, and it's just not going well for them. And this is just another step backwards at this point. And it's starting to the questions about Caserio are starting to leak out on the timeline. I saw it all day today. They're drifting away from Lovey and finding a new villain to pick on, and Caserio starting.
And they should. It's his time. It's his time. We've been very fair to him. It's his time.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's like I said earlier today on Twitter. I mean, he's not perfect. He's had his missteps. We talked about it 2 weeks ago in the Cooks debacle, and he's had his mistakes. He's had some good things, but it's worth digging into a little bit further. I understand he's still coming out of a deep hole with this organization, with this roster, with the salary cap situation, but 2023, this coming offseason is going to be critical, not only for the roster building, how they handle the quarterback, how they handle the coaching staff. And this is going to be a make or break offseason for Caserio by all means. I mean, people can say he's got a 6-year contract and all that stuff. He's got to show something.
You want to hear what I'm comparing Caserio to right now? Like,
Sure.
and that's like how important year 3 is for Caserio,
Yeah.
he could be the Texans' Sashi Brown. Like honestly, like Sashi Brown was only GM for a few years. He
Sasha
went through the process.
died for everything. Died for the process in Cleveland.
They went through the ugliest process you can go through, but year 3 or whatever it was, he didn't get the job done, and I think he was with the organization for like 6 years. Like if Caserio doesn't get it together at this point, then I would not be opposed to this being his final year. That's how important this is, man. Like this can't be a just sit there and drag your feet. And I'm not sitting here looking for wins. I'm not sitting here looking for. As a matter of fact, I'm looking for the opposite. But to handle things the way that they were handled today, from 7:30 to about noon, is unacceptable. It is unacceptable, and it's more important that stretch from Monday to Wednesday is more important than any game you play this year because fans are already laughing at you. You already look like a joke from Lovie Smith on Sunday, acting like fans haven't booed all year. Yes, they have. They've booed you literally every game. Literally every game you've gotten booed. You might have your
There's
headset on,
nobody there to boo.
but they're getting booed. Like it's happening. And the stadium is empty. So yes, you are. Like from Sunday to Wednesday, that is what matters as much as winning games at this point. And they failed miserably. And if you can't handle that, you don't have a grasp of that, then you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. You're going to be fighting an uphill battle. And it's frustrating when I hear stuff like that and see stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've been very fair with Caserio, but I don't think you can minimize just how stupid they looked today. They looked like, I mean, if let's be honest, like they're actually kind of lucky they're the Texans because if this had been the Giants or this had been the Cowboys or this had been, I don't know, Washington, dude, they would have first take would have been able to rip up their run sheets and just make fun of them for 3 hours. That's how bad this was. But fortunately for them, um, they're in Houston and football because of crap like this, on top of other things, has become kind of a laughing stock in to some, and some people they just don't even pay attention sometimes. So, yeah, I mean
No,
they're lucky they're here.
that's the perception outside of Houston, for sure. I mean, I follow different beat writers and stuff from different towns, and you'll see it in their replies. It's especially like DJ's feed is a good one to kind of gauge off because he still has a big following from New York, and same with
Bro, he
Jonathan.
dragged me into that, and they jumped on me like a damn trampoline. I had like 45 DMs. I had like 1,000 comments because I said Zach Wilson sucked like
Yeah.
4 or 5 weeks ago. I'm not even going to revisit that because that's just the time. It's a different level of smoke. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're lucky they're in Houston because if the Jets pulled that or anyone else, they would have been getting killed. And that's a problem. That's going to be
Yeah.
a problem.
Yeah. So, but thank everybody for joining in. We got Landry's remote tonight, so appreciate to him for continuing in and stepping in on the show. We got a lot of folks joining in. We're on Twitter Spaces, Twitter Live, and YouTube Live. So wherever you're at, thanks for joining in. If you want to be a part of things, you can hit the request button on Spaces or submit your comment through YouTube. We'll get to whatever we can, and happy to answer what we can. So talking back to the benching, Davis Mills benching, a lot of quarterbacks benches this week, a lot of quarterback changes all over the league this week. We got bunch of players either hurt or being benched. And is this a 1 week deal for Kyle Allen and Davis Mills, or is this a 2 week reset, or is this if Kyle Allen, say for some reason Houston wins this weekend, which going against Miami seems like a long shot. If he plays well, does he continue to stay there? And how well does he have to play to continue to keep the spot and continue starting going down the road?
I mean, I think the bar is pretty low. I think they probably ride it out with him. Again, like you're talking about one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL this year in Mills. I think the bar is pretty low. The other thing that maybe it mattered more than we gave it credit for, And I'm not saying that I would have started Davis Mills from the beginning, but I mean, if we're being fair, in training camp, Rex Burkhead was your fourth best running back, and Rex Burkhead has stunk in the regular season. Justin Britt didn't look good. You didn't even make him play in preseason. He was bad. Kama Grugier Hill looked kind of rough in preseason, and Davis Mills was the third best quarterback. Like it's just like honestly, he was the third best quarterback in preseason.
Yeah.
So
Driscoll's 0-3.
yeah,
3-0. I'm sorry, 3-0. But yeah,
yeah. So
it's
like,
just,
yeah,
it,
I think
what we're seeing now is a continuation of camp and preseason.
yeah, and I didn't make a lot of it like just because there's more potential upside in seeing what he had, and I'm happy they did it just to figure stuff out, but. Uh, he's been bad. The bar is really low, and Kyle Allen looked a lot better in preseason than Davis Mills did. So I expect him to play better. I'm actually predicting just a Brandon Cooks revival. Um, I think we see Brandon Cooks finish the season like more similar to what we've seen from him the first 2 years. I think a lot of his frustration had to do with Davis Mills, which I know a lot of people will roll their eyes because well, you committed to him and all that. And, there's been some stuff, rightfully so, where people
They
have
were never on the same page on the field this year. That was clear.
yeah. But I think we're gonna see Brandon Cooks. Like I think we'll probably see I don't know, I'll say 100 yards this week, assuming that he's out there. I think we're gonna see kind of a Brandon Cooks type of revival, which is good because you'll get a better look for him and maybe the stock goes up. But yeah, I do think it's Kyle Allen for the remainder of the season. Uh, I don't think they're going to pull him out. I don't think they're going to like play seesaw here.
I think it's probably gonna go like 2 weeks, and Kyle Allen's probably gonna be in the same product as Mills, and at that point is what's the difference of who's out there? What do you end up doing? And
Briscoe time.
yeah, I mean that makes me wonder if you deactivate, that Driscoll. I think they can't do any more elevations on him. I think he's already got 3 for this year, so they'd have to sign him to the roster. But yeah, it'd be tough press. Absent an injury, it'd be tough press to go back to Mills. And I agree with you. I could easily see them just rolling with Allen for the last 7 games of the season and eking out maybe one win here. That I don't think he brings any more to the table for a win. He might bring more to the table to show better performance, better work out of the offense, but I don't think it's going to be enough to produce a win, especially against Miami and that high power offense. So it's hopefully we'll see just a little more cohesion. Like you said, Cooks be better. I'd like to see hopefully continue to see Collins pick up a little bit more and just see how he handles the blitz. I mean, we've seen how bad the interior offensive line has been, and this defensive front for Miami is no joke again. They've got very good pass rushers both on the edge and in the interior, especially with the addition of Chubb, and they kind of play a weird front with a weird 5-man front and kind of have Jalen Phillips rotate between interior and the edge, and he can really get after it. So it's going to be another rough day for Kenyon Green and Quessenberry and AJ Can for sure on the interior. And it hopefully, I mean, it can't seem to get any worse with that interior group. It's, that was probably the only honest thing we heard out of Caserio today was his assessment of Kenyon Green. That was about the one time where it seemed like he was being a little bit honest instead of coach speak or GM speak. So,
that was the worst half by a non-quarterback I think I've seen. And maybe Kareem Jackson's rookie year, there could be something, but I think that was really rough by Kenyon. I felt really bad for him.
Yep.
Really bad for him.
So here, Patrick Storm, if the playbook seems to open up, what do you think is the reason? Allen's talent or Pep's filling the heat?
I think Pep's going to let it rip. And I know Patrick's been kind of on top of this. And I think Ari's been on top of it. Like, there's been some guys that have been on top of it. Like, I think Pep's going to, like, let it rip now. And it's going to frustrate a lot of people because he really has he has a lot to lose. But in the big scheme of things, you could say he has nothing to lose to. If that, I don't think that makes sense. But like, I just think I think he's gonna coach a lot more freely now without Mills, and I think it's gonna be a lot of people are gonna kind of eye roll it.
Well, I mean, why would that be? Is it more? Does he feel like he can do more things with Allen, or it's
He has a
I've got
scapegoat,
nothing.
man. He has
I've
he
got
has a
nothing to lose
scapegoat.
with Allen. I was trying to protect Mills, but I've got nothing to lose with Allen. He's more of a veteran. He should be able to handle things a little bit differently. Is it that kind of line of thinking?
I mean, I think it's that, and it's also like you kind of got. I mean, Pep Hamilton basically gets a revival where if things go well, he can sell it as it was all Mills. So I think naturally there you kind of just have a little bit more opportunity to let it rip a little bit. I mean, Uh, I also think Allen's a little more comfortable than Mills. I think he's probably going to have a little bit more. I mean, I think we'll see a little bit more poise. I think we'll see him move around a little bit more in the pocket, not be as statuesque. I think he'll help Kenyon Green, but I do anticipate Pep kind of opening it up a little bit, which could be bad, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, I anticipate that.
TJ says if Allen is more consistent throwing the ball, it should open up more running lanes for DP, meaning Damian Pierce. Yeah, I mean that would be clear. Now we'll say Miami is probably a top 8 run defensive unit. They're very, very good in that front. So it might be another tough sledding day for Damian Pierce. Hopefully it's not what we saw against Washington. But yeah, if teams are not going to have to load up the box like Washington did and prove until Allen can prove that he can throw the ball and move the ball down the field, then DP is going to have another rough day. He might crack open
You
a few.
hear his country ass talking about getting slammed.
What did he say exactly?
I love that guy. I love that guy so much.
Yeah. That was interesting. That whole body slam the home dude put down on him. I get it. It shouldn't be in the game, but I mean, it didn't really hurt him. But I mean, that dude was flexing after he made that move and everything. He was all about it. All about
There's
it.
no consequence. They had to kick the field goal anyway, so I guess it was worth it. No harm, no foul.
Yeah. If you're listening in on Twitter Spaces, you can hit the request button on the bottom left of the screen if you want to speak, or you can just tweet at the show on Twitter Spaces, and the comment will show up there. And if you're listening in on YouTube, make sure you post your comment. We'll get to as much as we can tonight, being the special holiday edition of Cap and Trade tonight. Landry Locker joining us in of 610 Sports Radio and the Locker Room on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to his contents coming out daily. Let's see here. We got another one from Truth. So 2 questions, 1 draft, 1 free agency. Thoughts on Darnell Washington, and is it possible cap-wise for the team to land Roquan Smith and Daron Payne?
Roquan's not. I mean, you're not going to trade what you traded for Roquan and let him go. So I don't think Roquan's going anywhere.
Yeah, that was an interesting trade, and Baltimore is gonna. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle things. They really need to get Lamar Jackson's contract done, because if they have to place the exclusive tag on him, which is going to probably be around $49 million cap charge, it's going to be really tight for them to fit in a Roquan Smith deal as well, especially being a free agent. So, I mean, it's pretty clear Roquan wants to be a $20 million linebacker and, get past the CJ Mosley deal. But is it possible to fit, just hypothetically? Sure. I mean, you can make anything work if this team doesn't have a whole lot of contracts next year and they have some money that they can shift around between Tunsil if they did an extension, same with Howard. And there's some deductions from the roster that they can make to free up some cap space. So could it work? Yeah, sure. But like Landry said, it'd be very odd, very suspect to see Baltimore make that kind of trade and then let Payne, let Roquan get away. So that would be my thought on that. But Daron Payne, that's definitely a name to keep a lookout for. I think there's going to be a couple of quality defensive tackles out on the market. Hopefully hopefully Houston can try to get one, whether it's through the draft or for free agency, but there are going to be a few options out there. And then thoughts on Darnell Washington. Landry, you got any thoughts on Darnell Washington from a draft perspective?
Not really. I haven't really dove into Darnell Washington.
I
If we're
don't
being
have a whole
completely
lot.
honest.
That'll be
I
a
feel like
April time we can really dig into something like that.
yeah. I feel like I like pretty much every prospect that we talk about at this point. I feel like I'm just falling in love with all of them. I'm just want some players. I mean, I like Darnell. I mean, I don't know, like, when are you talking about taking him? I guess that would kind of come into it. I do wonder, like, where the Cleveland pick ends up. If they trade back like they did last year with Kenyon Green, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity. Miami has to forfeit their first round pick, so you actually have 3 picks in the top 32. So there could be some trade up potential there because you're right on the edge. So, I mean, it would just have to be like, it would really just have to depend on when you're talking about taking him.
Yeah. Patrick says, Lamar Jackson, you are a Houston Texan. Woo!
You know how I would be about that. Lamar's my favorite quarterback.
I know.
I just don't like Lamar Jackson haters because they just won't stop. Like, it's okay. Like, you said he wasn't a quarterback, and then he's a quarterback and he wins an MVP. Then all of a sudden he sucks in the playoffs. Then all of a sudden it's like, it's just a revolving door of hate. Like, it's just kind of a little bit too much for me. Yeah. And I like what he's about. I just like his personality. I like the way that he just seems like a down-to-earth guy. He's best friends with Kodak Black. I'm just a big fan of Lamar.
Got some Cowboy fans infiltrating the show tonight, Mr. Dustin. So Dr. Barrett over on Twitter Spaces talking about Roquan says they can let Roquan walk. They gave him up a 2 and we'll get a 3 back for him. The thing about comp picks is nothing's ever guaranteed. And you can sign one player externally and that comp pick is canceled out. It doesn't even have to be for the same amount of money. It can be similar money. Or it also plays off of snap counts, play time. So if Roquan Smith goes elsewhere and then gets hurt, that comp pick will probably fall off. Similar to how,
like when Kareem Jackson got a D-dub.
Just 2 games and it canceled. It ended up canceling out altogether. It dropped from a 3rd down to a 4th, which ended up canceling it out. So it's very, very tough to count on compensatory picks on top of it being a year later as well. So you're talking 2024 for that potential compensatory pick. So Dr. Barrett,
they badly needed a defensive makeover. So I mean, like they needed a guy like a Roquan Smith, like really bad. Like it's not,
that they're quietly becoming a big deal there. And Dr. Barrett also wanted to know, why aren't we getting a comp pick for Justin Reed? Well, it's because Nick Caserio signed 42 free agents. That pretty much the amount of free agents that he signed and the amount of it did, like I said, it didn't have to be money for money, like one player signed for the same amount of money for the other player. Just the amount of money the amount of free agents that Caserio signed this year externally was easily going to cancel out Justin Reed. There's a comp pick section over on overthecap.com. If you want to take a look at that as well, it should hopefully spell it out a little bit further.
Bro, you're a beast on this type of stuff. This is where you just sit back and listen on stuff like this.
Let's see here.
That's why you're you, man.
Yeah. So let's see here. Is this team worse than last year? Why is that? Is it coaching or players or both? Bring back Coley. No, thank you. I guess it could be worse. They're making it hard to root for them. Yeah, I mean, we see it every Sunday. It was already maybe 30% capacity, starting out the season, and this past week it's getting rough and it's getting tough for the fans to continue to stay on board. And that's partly why, I think you got to look at the quarterback in the draft next year. You just got to start to show some forward movement. And is it the team worse than last year? I don't think so. at least from a personnel standpoint, I don't think they're any worse. They're probably not much better, but they're a hair bit better, especially the secondary. But maybe it's the coaching, maybe it's a little bit of everything. Maybe they had a lot of turnovers last year that went their way, and that led to some wins that maybe they shouldn't have gotten. But this year the turnover margins in the negative again, and those kind of things lead to losses, whether it's a 7-point loss, 3-point loss, or a 14-point loss. And you have like the pick six from last week, and I think you just add all those things together, and it's such a volatile from year to year, especially the turnover margin in defense. A lot of fans and folks, especially myself, kind of thought this defense would at least be kind of a middle of the pack performance defensive group, maybe top 20, but they're just right back to where they were last year from a number standpoint without the turnovers. So I think that's one of the reasons why you're getting into this 1-win season versus the 4 wins that they had last year. So overall, is it worse than last year? I don't think so, but the record is what it is, and they're from that standpoint, yeah, they're a worse team.
Yeah, I think that the overall like roster, like looking ahead, I think it's better. I think there's obviously like some more young talent. You're definitely better at running back. Receiver Brandon Cooks hasn't been as good as he was last year. I think that's a big problem, regardless of what the reason is. Davis Mills is worse. I think the O-line's better because you actually have Titus Howard doing what he should have been doing the whole time, and the tackles are good. The one thing I will say, and the guy mentioned David Culley. What was his name?
What? The person
The guy who asked the question?
Austin.
Oh, Austin. He mentioned David Culley. I will say one thing. David Culley does look kind of smart if he was unwilling to fire Tim Kelly for Pep Hamilton. That's the one thing. Like,
man, that's nobody's talking about modem right there.
Like, if of all the things, like, we question like David Culley, like a lot of times, like we question like, man, this clock management against the Patriots and some of this clock management's embarrassing. But if David Culley truly went down because he didn't want to let Pep Hamilton call plays instead of Tim Kelly, I'm not saying Tim Kelly's like Bill Walsh, but doesn't
Who
David
knew?
Culley kind of look smart?
Coley was all over it. Nobody listened. Man knows.
Doesn't he kind of look smart with this?
Would you say that the games were close early due to defense creating turnovers? They did in the beginning, until they went on a hiatus from the turnover standpoint. I mean, they seem to be getting, they had a few turnovers on special teams. They were able to knock the ball loose with the peanut punch and things like that, and a couple of interceptions, and then they kind of went on a hiatus, and Steven Nelson broke the seal and got another interception, and then it just returned right back, and PG dropped one last week. But yeah, it would be one of the few reasons, Arthur, that's why they were closer earlier in the season, and now it's snowballing on all spectrums of the roster, offense, defense, and even we're starting to see Frank Ross's group kind of have some cracks and a couple of mistakes here and there and penalties that we never would see.
Don't you ever.
I know you love Frank Ross. I'm not trying to say bad about it. I'm just saying there's a couple penalties, a couple things happening that usually don't happen on a Frank Ross.
Not his fault.
Special team. Not his fault. KJ says, I think the Texans have to take a QB at number 1. I understand why fans talk about taking Anderson or Carter. That will lead us to QB purgatory. That's been my contention, for this part. I mean, regardless if you didn't take QB at number 1 or you try to go to a veteran like maybe Derek Carr gets released and you try to go down that path, but what is this roster with Derek Carr? I mean, middle of the pack then at that point, and then you're like you're saying, you're a QB purgatory, and then you just got to swing for the fences and hope that Bryce Young is the guy and can get this organization back up and going, and that way you're only using one pick instead of having to trade up in 2024. So there's still plenty of other picks to use to build this roster around a quarterback. So
yeah, I think Bryce is the guy. That would be my guy. No hesitation.
There you go. Here's a good one for you, Landry, from Austin. Would the Texans organization consider hiring Frank Ross as their next head coach?
No, but I do think that if you want to look at like a potential special teams coach that Frank Ross worked with, like as like a dark horse type name, I think Bubba Ventrone is one.
You like you some Ventrone.
The Indianapolis special teams coach, which I'm kind of surprised he didn't get the interim job this year. But
Well,
like
he's
if you're
not
looking for
drinking buddies
someone,
with Ursi.
what's
He's
that?
not, he's not drinking buddies with Ursi.
He is
that's how
not.
you get that. No,
I don't even
no.
know if
I mean,
Bubba drinks.
yeah, he may not.
He might.
If the team goes defensive head coach D'Amico Bryan, what's the name for you like for OC? Rooting for Clint Kubiak. I had a note on here about that too, about him getting to call plays over in Denver, and that's going to be this past week was their first time they couldn't hold it. End up losing to Las Vegas. Luckily, it was good to see Las Vegas get a win. Create that a little more buffer, but there's going to be some different options out there, and D'Amico's one of them. If he's ready to take a head coach gig,
I think Dan
Quinn.
I think Dan Quinn's a better option than Flores too.
Yeah, there's going to be some options. I can't remember the gentleman's name coming out of Carolina is another one to look at. So, we'll have to wait and see what happens with Lovey. I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves on the coaching front. We'll have to wait and see what the team does. But as for that,
Flores almost broke Tua.
Yeah,
I mean, he
that's
did.
true. Yeah,
He did.
he's a tough guy too. If you thought it was bad with Lovey
right.
and Caserio and how they keep things from the media and don't want anything out, Flores was even worse.
Yeah.
So I don't even think we want that from that standpoint. But
no, I mean, if he's good coach, that's fine. I just don't know. I don't think I think he had some good years in Miami, but I kind of think it's kind of regardless of the process, and obviously Miami was talking about tanking and they were tampering with Tom Brady and stuff. I kind of think it's kind of been shown that they made the right call in going with McDaniel, whether it was their first choice.
Yeah, that's been fun to watch over there, and we're going to get to see it firsthand this weekend. But it's been, I mean, the way that offensive scheme runs, and it's clear who was kind of Shanahan's mastermind behind the offense. And Shanahan's obviously the pioneer of it from his dad, but McDaniels, man, that they seem to run the same plays. Huh?
Did you watch his press conference this week?
No.
Dude.
I'll have to go back and
your
watch it.
Your nerdy ass will love it.
But it's just so fun to watch him run the same plays from two different formations and just beat people over and over with it. And it's just got a small variation from here to there. It's very simple and it's not complex. And it's just great to see. And then the fact that the one where he asked, and it was last week when he asked what quarterback was scrambling on them, and he asked him to stop
Fields.
on the sideline.
Fields.
Yeah, he asked him to stop, and he was like, I asked him to stop, and obviously coaching's an issue for him. He didn't want to listen, and that dude is hilarious.
This one's like so like in depth. It's like a 26-minute presser, and you know how I am with that. But like he talks about how Kubiak influenced him and Shanahan, and he talks about how he talks about defense, how they put 3 pass rushers out there, and like everything that goes into that, like the quarterback double hitching. He talks about offense, and like they asked him how comfortable he's getting, and he starts talking about how comfortable to me is almost like another sign of laziness. And he talks about like everything that goes into like calling plays, like what you take into account, all that. Like he's just really in depth. Like it's like he's the man of many words, like Nick Caserio. You can actually just go listen to our 11 o'clock segment, Fire Up the Odyssey app, little self-promotion. We just played the best of what he had to say. Dude, he's just like, he's really deep. And he's also got a cool story because he's a recovering alcoholic. Actually got fired in Houston for oversleeping. I think Dan Quinn and Shanahan had like a coming to Jesus meeting with him in Atlanta. Supposedly he's a big smoker now, we actually talked to someone who I guess was like in his frat at Yale, but he started out as like an intern with Kyle Shanahan. He's just an interesting guy, and he's really like I know the highlights that you see are like he's kind of dopey, but when he's talking ball, especially when he was talking defense, man, he's deep, man.
Yeah.
He's deep.
Yeah. No, we'll see. I mean, they're 7-point dogs this weekend, so I don't know. It'd take a lot to
They're what dogs?
6.5, 7 point. I thought something like that. Is the line even higher than that?
Try 13.
Is it 13 now?
You want to
Let me go
you want
look.
to take 7? I'll take Miami -7.
Well, I don't want to know.
Yeah. I'll
Betting
take Miami
dashboards. Let
-7.
me go look here.
6 or 7.
13.5 now. Yeah, it's 13
You're
and a
gonna
half.
have Mattress Mac cleaning out his whole winnings.
Yep, 13.5 now. Yeah, see, at the very beginning of the week, it was 10.5, and it keeps going down to 13.5 now. Man, went down 2 points in the last 12 hours. And they don't like Kyle Allen. Don't know what's coming. Let's see here. Had some more questions. A couple of DMs on Twitter. What you laughing about, man?
Kyle Allen, they don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't have a whole lot of
competitive
expectations.
advantage that
They don't know what's really. I'm being sarcastic. They don't know what's coming. That's what I mean. They don't know who's going to play.
Lovey said competitive advantage.
They're gonna, like somebody told me on Twitter, they're gonna announce it on Friday and act like it's a breaking news. So
Kyle Allen's our quarterback.
Let's see here. There was a question that got over here. Was with Lamar's contract in the works potentially, do you think there's a chance Tyler Huntley could be moved this offseason?
You're talking about Snoop Huntley?
Yeah. He's going to be an RFA, restricted free agent, this coming off season. So I don't see any reason why Baltimore would let him get away. I mean, they might put like a second round tender on him since he was an undrafted free agent. So they can't do an original round tender if they want to get any draft compensation for him. So maybe they do a second round tender, which would be, where's it at? Dang it. I can't find it now. Trends. No. Anyhow, it would be, I think, a little over $4.5 million, something like that, for the RFA tag, but RFA tender. So, I mean, I don't see any reason why they would do anything other than that with Tyler Huntley. And if they could even do the original tender, if they don't think anybody would sign him, I mean, I get it. He had, a little bit of showing, but I just don't see what all the hype is about him. But maybe I'm missing something.
Is there a lot of hype?
I get the Tyler Huntley question about once a month, it seems like, all this season.
Is it the same guy asking it?
No.
Okay.
Different people. Also, how close do you think Lamar gets to the fully guaranteed threshold?
The Deshaun deal?
I don't think he gets close. I don't think anybody's going to get close for a while. I mean, until they're really willing to dig in. Watson, I think, is still viewed by many organizations as an outlier who had a ton of leverage in his specific situation, coupled with Cleveland just doing something completely out of left field. I mean, we know how out of left field that was because they snuck in the back door with that one, and Caserio ended up having to penalize them with a little update on the draft picks after the fact. But is it, nobody's even come close. Kirk Cousins had his little, 95% guarantee way back when, but he had some good free agency leverage. But the Baltimore is going to put the exclusive tag on him most likely. And is there a way that he gets there? I don't think so. He's as, he doesn't have an agent representing him, which I don't think is going to hurt him. He'll probably, I think he's working with the same folks that helped Tunsil do his contract. Of course, he's going to have Eric DaCosta. He's going to have Eric DaCosta and different people on the other side of the table, and not Bill O'Brien and Jack Easterby on the other side of the table negotiating the contract, which makes a big difference. But is he going to get there at 100%? No, he's just going to get his $180 million guaranteed, $200 million guaranteed. Won't be a full guaranteed deal, and That'd be my guess. I think they get a deal worked out in the off season. But I also get the impression that, Lamar he's cool with it. If I'll play on the tag, I'll go play on the tag. I mean, it's no
He's
big
just
deal to
playing
me.
ball. He's just
Yeah.
playing ball. He'll
It's
go play.
29
He'll
million
go play
next
on the
year, and then
blacktop, man. He doesn't care.
yeah, and he'll be pretty much unfranchised taggable in 2024 if he goes that route. So he'll make his money one way or another, and I think he'll get closer, but I think we're still a good ways away. And then we saw the NFLPA this week file some questions about collusion and towards guaranteed contracts, which I think is a tough sell for them. I think that was more of DeMorris, his last bidding option. He's out the door after this year's NFLPA president. So I think he's just got his one last hurrah trying to get something out there for the players. There's no evidence that you can see that the teams are pushing to avoid fully guaranteed contracts. What they're trying to avoid is 5-year fully guaranteed contracts. If this league transition towards fully guaranteed contracts, you'll see the contracts, the lengthwise, shrink dramatically. You'll see nothing but 1 or 2-year contracts. It'd become almost like the NBA, where everything's just 1 or 2-year deals. Easier to trade players back and forth, things like that, because all the contracts are all the same from a structure standpoint. And there's only your top of the market veteran guys are going to maybe get something beyond 2 years. But beyond that, I don't think the players really want fully guaranteed contracts. And I say that because I think there's more money to be had with the current structure of contracts that are coming out, from a total cash payout over the life of the contract versus just getting a 1-year fully guaranteed deal and then take your chances back in the market. And the market fluctuates so much from year to year that it just doesn't make sense to me. Not yet, at least. They haven't just got to the point, but they're going to, the players are going to need Lamar Jackson to push back and hold out if they want to continue this push towards fully guaranteed contracts. Let's see here. We'll go back to the questions. Got a few more that came in. Do you think the McNair's seeing the fans not showing up? This is on Twitter. Fans not showing up at games. Do you think they should sell the team? No. And I don't think they're going to. I don't think there's any reason for them to. I mean,
they're doing fine. They're doing fine, but they do need to check Caserio.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it too. This is what, year 3 of Cal, being the front runner on things, and he has shown to be a bigger cash spender than Bob McNair ever was. And this team was the top cash spender on the roster 2 years in a row up until last year. And then this year, they're even with this roster with the, like you mentioned, the $75 million in cap dead money this year on the cap, they're still like top 15 cash spender. And he has spent a ton of money on the facilities. And I just don't see him any way trying to head out or get out or sell the team or anything like that. And if folks think he needs to sell the team, I disagree with it. I think, like Landry said, he just needs to get whether it's Caserio or somebody, just continue to work towards getting the right people in the building. That's it at the end of the day. So I got one other question for you, Landry, before we hop out of here. So there's a list of teams here that are 7-win teams or more. And which one of these teams are real and which ones are kind of the fakers, right? So Philadelphia, they're the real deal out of the NFC.
They're real.
Yeah. Kansas City.
Of course, real.
Minnesota.
God. I think they're
because we saw them kind of get gut checked last week.
And they've had their 2 losses have been really ugly.
Yeah.
Really, really ugly. Now they lost to some good teams. But I'll say they're real, but I mean, I'll say they're real. I'll say they're real, but I'm not like 100% confident in it. Although I did pick them to win the division.
Yeah. Buffalo.
Real as hell, man. Although the problem with Buffalo, I don't think it's the worst thing that they're not in first place because I don't think they're necessarily built to win in the kind of conditions that are often in Buffalo. Just the way the snow and stuff. They're kind of it's kind of weird because they still don't run the ball great, although they are running the ball a little bit more. But they're real as hell. They're really good.
Yeah, Josh Allen just needs to kind of rein in a little bit. He's getting a little
He's banged out.
Josh Allen.
He needs a little bit of rest.
Yeah, Dallas.
Real.
Man, they look.
Especially if they're going to use Tony Pollard.
They look really good.
Yeah. Kind of lucked into that, but if they're going to use Tony Pollard, yeah, because Tony Pollard, you look at all his starts, he's the best back in the league.
Oh yeah.
I'm not exaggerating. Like just when he starts, he's the best back in the league. He was last year in his one start, and then you look at his starts this year. Like he's fresh, he's getting a lot of carries. Their defense is good. Dallas is real. So I've said everyone's real so far. Goodness.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they handle things with Pollard next year. So I mean, they're finally getting out of Elliott's guaranteed money.
Next year, I think they got one more year of hell, if I'm not mistaken. You will know better than me.
Yeah, I don't see any guaranteed money next year.
Okay. So this
16.7 million cap charge with 11.8 dead money. So there's like $4.5 million in savings there. Okay. So maybe they can finally move on from Elliott and re-sign Pollard.
Okay.
All right. Let's see here. Miami.
They're real, especially with Tua. I mean, that they
seem to find their way.
Yeah, their struggles were when he was out.
Yeah.
So I'll say they're real. Although it'll be interesting to see how McDaniel handles a playoff situation. But when Tua's in there, they're hard to beat. It's hard to find two more dynamic receivers than those.
Yeah, Waddle and Hill, man. It's gonna be tough this week, especially if Stingley doesn't play again, which it kind of seems like he's not gonna play. New York Giants.
Nah, I mean they're not real, but I still think their coach has done a hell of a job even getting them in this discussion. But nah, they're not a threat to make a run or anything.
And the Titans, they just seem to just scrap their way to a win. Rabel's, man, he's such a good coach.
I don't think they're a like a contender. I don't think they're going to make like a run, but they reach their full potential every year, and it's just incredible.
Yeah. That was it for the list. I just want to get your take on that. It pretty much, I think Minnesota's a faker. I think if they get in, it'll be a one and done for them through the playoffs. But and the Giants, another team, but everybody else on that list is a real team, and it's just been overall it's just been an interesting league this year with the total offense across the league being down, and now we're going to see a bunch of quarterback changes this week between injuries and benching. So it'll be a fun holiday weekend. A lot of games tomorrow, 3 tomorrow, and then 3 through the weekend. I think that's about all I had, sir.
All right, man.
Well, I appreciate you jumping in with us remote. Hope you have a good family vacation up there and enjoy your time. Have a wonderful holiday.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, man.
And everybody that was listening in, whether you're on Twitter Spaces, YouTube, Twitter Live, I appreciate it. And
and there's more important things than football, according to your GM, Nick Caserio. So yeah,
my GM, yeah, we should all think about that. Well,
yeah.
No, but no, I thank everybody for listening in, and we'll be back next week. Landry's already dropped off, so that's fine. But I appreciate everybody joining in and listening in, and appreciate all the comments and all the interactions. They're always fun. I enjoy interacting with the fans, so don't hesitate to reach out to me on Twitter at TexansCap, and we'll get the podcast version of this show posted up. Probably going to be like Friday at this point, just because tomorrow being Thanksgiving. So I'll try to get it up on Friday, and we'll maybe cut some clips from this and get those posted on the channel, and I'll keep working my butt off trying to get this channel hopping and rolling as we continue on. And thanks for everybody, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and be safe. Peace.